I feel like sometimes appealing to the universality of some of these movements, like take like a labor movement or something, just the fact that these were people that were just getting the shit kicked out of them all the time. Like they were making no money, they were working horrible hours, people were dying at their places of employment. Like if you can make people feel those feelings and say, all right, now this built up for this long, and it's like this was the step that they took, and then this step led to this step. It can maybe make it seem a lot more tangible. Because actually, on the other end of that, did you guys realize Bukowski was in the the Hitler Youth? Just found that
What?
out recently.
I did not
Yeah,
know that.
Bukowski wrote an interesting account of why he joined the Hitler Youth when because he lived in Germany when he was a kid, and he's by no means a Nazi. Like the Bukowski that we all know is by no means a Nazi, but he wrote a really interesting account of like, this is why it was appealing. I was a nobody kid. I had no future. I was lonely. And these guys were good at suckering in kids who were in this position in life. And I found it like, it was kind of powerful and kind of interesting to be, because you hear like Nazi and you think no one that I know and I would never be, and like, how does someone get like, you think it's congenital or something, but it isn't, it's like all of these people built themselves from basic human feelings, and so did revolutionaries, and so did political figures. And is that becoming any more accessible now, the way that these things are being taught?
It's a good question. I mean, I definitely like try to, and I think a lot of people who are thinking about history in these ways try to incorporate like empathy and human emotion into like our understanding, right, of why these things are happening. But on a bigger scale, I've read a couple articles recently that have made the argument that like what you're talking about with the Hitler Youth, right, is that they, more than being like, we want to capture people into this movement solely on like these really awful, like horrible ideas that the Nazis were all about. It was like about like capturing something else about like the human experience, like these, like we've built in human connection and an appeal to your emotions in certain ways that are giving you something positive out of this movement, right?
Yeah.
And the articles I'd read were making essentially the argument that that's what we're seeing in the modern like far right as well. Like
Yeah.
all the people who like went batshit crazy for Trump and like are like, joining like white supremacy groups, or even aren't that far right, but are like tuning into Fox News and getting something out of like people like Tucker Carlson who are repeating these white supremacy talking points. Like they're getting something emotional out of it
Yeah.
that's keeping them tied to it, that's bringing them in, and it's beyond the fact of what they're talking. It's not the
Yeah.
facts that they're talking about. It's not just that. It's this emotional connection that the right is making with its base, right?
Yeah.
And that the argument is that that's been missing from the left, right? That like
Yeah.
we're coming at this with like, here's logical, rational thought, but we're not making the emotional appeals or creating the structures and systems that are giving people like the human connection that they need, or the like positive emotional experiences they need as well, in order to mobilize people around these ideas of radical like egalitarian change, right? So
Yeah.
that is actually like, I've read that as a critique of what is missing from what we're trying to do, like in a big picture sense, in terms of creating a radically different and more egalitarian, more inclusive society.